a grandmother.
Women in leadership, business, and lifestyle.
I know I do. Sometimes it can be overwhelming.
Welcome to another segment of Lifin Talk, and I am here with Dr. Rose White, my collaborator. So welcome, Dr. Rose.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being on, the talk with me.
I love it. Enjoy.
And it is fantastic. We have such a great time together.
Yes, we do.
And for those that maybe are tuning in and don't know anything about Dr. White, I'm going to get her to introduce herself real quick, and she does many things.
Thank you so much, Liz.
You're welcome.
I'm the founder of Elevate Pathways Coaching and Consulting, and it's just always a joy to be able to collaborate with Liz on talking about things that is so very important. And so she'll have even in the description about where you can find us at, which is also here on YouTube on Elevate Pathways. So I look forward to being able to see some of you there listening in as well.
Yes, and I'm Liz Joyner, and I'm owner of Emerging Life Coaching, and so all of my information will also be in the description as well. And I thought today that we talk about a powerful topic, which is really, as life coaches, and Dr. Rose, you're a master life coach, we really talk about a lot, and there's an exploration of this and in more detail, but I think today we're going to highlight, and that is the identity shift that changes everything in your life. And so you might ask, well, what the heck does that mean? So really it's breaking it down to as simple as identity isn't what happened to you in the past. It's not what's happening to you or what others may think about you. It really is your authentic self, and it's when you choose to become who you really are once you get aware. And so I want to start off with just a provoking thought that many of us maybe haven't thought about. So when you strip away your title, maybe your professional title and your different roles and what you think people expect of you, when all of that is gone, who are you really? Do you know? And so we're here to give you some food for thought and give you some takeaways so you can really have that exploration thought of what identity really means. And if you don't know, it's a great time to start defining who you really are, because you know what? It is finding your truth and finding who you really are from a deeper place. So living and starting to live from the inside out. So Dr. Rose, I want to kind of start off with, what are your thoughts to that?
Wow. It's amazing because I think about the shifting. Identity is all about the inner you. And so anytime you think and you add that word shift, that means there's a change. Yes. Anytime you're shifting anything. And so when it comes to identity, that's a change that has to take place from the inside. And it's when you can literally stop seeing yourself by what took place in the past. That means any kind of pains you might have had, any types of fears, limitations, just old labels sometimes that we have had. We've got to be able to shift that, because lots of those things help us not to have a good identity, not to see ourselves in a good light. So therefore, we have old identities. We tend to think, I'm stuck in this rut. I'm not enough. I'm always failing. I'm always trying to survive. That's a an identity. And it's an old identity that we get stuck in. So when we talk about, I think when Liz, you asked a question about that shifting, now we've got to change that shifting to I'm growing, I'm called, I'm capable of, rather than the old, I can't do that. But I'm capable of, I'm disciplined, I can build whatever it is that's on the inside of me by the help of God. I don't have to stay where I used to be. And so that's all about shifting our identity from negative to positive.
Oh, most certainly. And I think that, we inherit our identities in some way, shape, or form. Growing up, my mom used to be this and my father used to be that. So therefore I have to be this way. We have been conditioned. And then also, maybe outside influences, when I grow up, I have to be either a doctor, a lawyer, or something else. And our wants and desires are kind of buried. So we're here to maybe bring light to some of that today, is what identity do we inherit, and what is our true identity? And so some key points is about carrying labels. None of us are labels. Absolutely. We're not defined by what somebody else has created, because the truth of the matter is you are a masterpiece and you're your own creation. Mm-hmm. So what identity really belongs to you? And Dr. Rose, if you could shed light on that about conditioning, and labels in our environment that we are raised up, because it really does define our identity. And how can we shift out of that and get the work done in us, or do the work done in us, to where we can really start redefining in our mind that I am not somebody else's perception, or I don't need to meet up to an expectation. What I am deciding now going forward, I create my own identity, because I've done the work in me to identify my likes, my desires, my personality, and my talents. So your identity is formed around that which is inside of you.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit transparent here, because, I grew up where technically you were to go to work. You go to school, you then get a job, and you work on that job until you retire or die. Never with the expectation of that same company that you're working for, that you become the owner rather than the employee. And so therefore there is the identity that I always grew up with, that it was never to be an owner of anything, run anything, manage anything, but I was to work for someone that was going to tell me everything that I needed to do. Identity sometimes are because of the labels of you're born on the wrong side of the track. You're broken. And then when you start to get a certain age, like of today, well, you're too old now to start something new. These are things that shapes your identity. And so what I believe that has to be done is you got to replace lies with the truth.
Yes.
Changing that identity is replacing the lie. So sometimes we believe the lie that now I don't have anything to offer. But the truth is that you do carry that wisdom. You've got purpose. And I'm a strong believer that everyone has purpose. Everyone has destiny. And so it's a matter of walking that destiny out. Sometimes also, Liz, we talk about the past. And we as a people, sometimes we have allowed the past to define us. But your past does not define you. My past might explain some things, but it doesn't own me. And so you can change, your narrative when it comes to your life. And so I really believe that you've got to renew some things, and that is how you talk to yourself, self-talk. The language that's on the inside. Again, I mentioned the statement, I'm becoming. I'm becoming who I was really created to be. And that is not just the employee that works in a company, but I was created to be the owner of the company. That is shifting my identity, the things that was placed on me as a child and as a young person, that all you're supposed to do is to work and have that job, go to school, make sure you got education, and then when you leave, you get nothing but maybe a watch and a thank you for your service, if they do tell you thank you. But my thing is that I had to change my inner thoughts. So I really want to encourage you that are listening to align your thought pattern and then align your actions. You got to act like the person that you are becoming. Way before I started a business, in 1980, I was already operating as a business owner. I changed my identity by how I saw myself, not by what somebody defined me to be.
Well, and you said it, spot on. And I think that one more thing that I want to add is that our past is a launching pad, okay? The past is a doorway where you look behind and you extract to learn and you turn it into power to meet your future's purpose. Mm-hmm. And so also want to talk about another key point to identity is really losing yourself. So oftentimes at some point or other we get off track. So losing yourself could also have so many different definitions by maybe you become disconnected, or you get to the point where you just want to fit in and you find yourself people pleasing at your own cost. And so thinking about, have you gotten to a point where maybe you have outgrown the version of yourself right now? And if you have, maybe that's a stirring inside of you, that you feel restless, that you feel like you're supposed to do something and you don't know what quite is. Well, that could be a sign, a tug, that it is time for you to move into a new place, become realigned, and connect with yourself on a deeper emotional level. And so it is about also doing that. And I know we talk about in these segments, Dr. Rose, a lot about alignment, about finding your purpose, about also just doing that inventory within yourself, because it is necessary. You can't start at A to get to Z in a snap. Sure. There are building blocks and there are steps along the way. So, Dr. Rose, what would you say about losing oneself? Because there's and we could talk about that topic. There's so many variations and situations of people in different situations. And not one is to be understated, because every single person is going through a lot of different things. Yeah. And most certainly, you're in a season, but you're not going to be there forever.
That's right.
And know that.
You talked about, seasons and times. We think about inventory. Inventory is another word for assessment, to see what you have, what you're missing, what you're low in. And so when you think about that, even on the retail, you're doing that assessment of how your business, how your store is doing, what you're lacking, what you need to increase. And so when it comes to the individual, we think about some things that we do have to leave off. But Liz, you also mentioned the word outgrowing yourself.
Yes.
That's something that you really want to take into consideration, because life is all about processes. And sometimes we do get to that place where we're no longer with the same mindset. The things that I used to do, I don't do anymore, because now my mind is over here to do something else. And so that has to be, your past has to be that launching pad. There are some things that we do have to leave behind. I used to do that. But now I'm coming into a newness. I'm coming into a new awareness. I'm coming into a place of becoming better than I used to be. And so that's transformation. So there are some things in the midst of transforming you're going to have to release, you're going to have to surrender, you're going to have to let go of, because now we're talking about forward motion. Again, when it comes to inventory, you're seeing, okay, I'm lack over here. I need to increase in that in order for me to get to where I want to be. So you got to know what it is that you need. And then the stuff that you don't need, okay, discard that. It's time for me to add on here, because this is what's going to help to develop me to become a better me. Get rid of the old, because there are some things that are critical when it comes to your progress. And when it comes to our identity, there are those things that we do have to assess. We've got to analyze. We've got to find out, what is it that's going to help me to become better, not worse than.
Good point. And I think something too, leading into another key of identity, is your awakening, okay? Because we have to live in forward motion. We don't have a choice, just like the earth constantly rotates, just like the seasons change, nothing stays the same. So how do you awaken? How do you start the process of awakening? Well, number one, in my opinion, is being aware, okay, that you want to make a change and that you are tired of being sick and tired. And so it starts that internal thought process and that internal unction that you have of feeling like restless and what am I going to do about it? That's awareness that's happening to you. And so you have to identify also what is triggering you, what is pulling at you, and what has triggered you in the past, because those are signs that you need to make a shift and a transformation needs to happen. So, Dr. Rose, what would you say to a client having that epiphany of awareness? What would you say? What is maybe 2 steps that they can take?
Everything starts with honesty. And, we have to be honest. We always tell, you tell your children, always tell the truth. Always be honest with people. But one of the things that we fail to sometimes do, and that's to be honest with ourselves. And so with my clients, I want them to always become honest enough to see that something has to shift. They are now aware, okay, I've got to do better. That awakening has come. The fog has literally lifted. And so now just a matter of encouraging them to make sure that now that they're aware, to remove any excuses that will cause them to lose that power to go further. Once you realize I can't stay like this, my goal now is to help that person to move forward, to now take the next step, to go to the next level. And again, when we think about the self-assessment, now is when I can really begin to talk with individuals about looking at their self, being honestly examining where they are, how they are thinking, because everything has to do with what we think, what's going on up here, what we're carrying on the inside, what's no longer working. That's all about self-assessment. That's all about being honest. And when you can become honest with yourself, when I can help clients to become honest with themselves, now they are on the verge of a massive transformation, a complete change, a total shift, because that awakening has come forth.
And so you said it very well, because it is the rebuilding of your identity as your authentic self, because that's where it begins. And so it is being intentional and finding your true self. It takes work. Yeah. It is by an assessment. It is step by step. And so identity isn't found in who somebody else's opinion is of you. It's about you wanting to, the want to, and it's about creating new alignment, new choices, and new decisions. So when we do that, now we can become free of somebody else's opinion, somebody else's expectation. And guess what happens? You live in alignment, new-found alignment. So what does that create in yourself, in your new identity? It would be confidence and clarity. And most certainly, you'll find your purpose on that. Dr. Rose, what would you say to a client that really is in this transition of finding that new identity and building confidence, enough confidence to get to that next level?
You know, I'm going to say that I provide what is called a rotation process. That rotation process is all about, number one, looking inward, being honest about the condition. Secondly, to identify a pattern. You know, what is the pattern? What constantly repeats? You know, once you've discovered something, what old cycle could you very easily find yourself going back to? Whether it's delay, you know, because there are some people that are procrastinators. So identifying that pattern, the distractions that might be in the way. But thirdly, being able to name, I would say, the misalignment. Because oftentimes there are things that are misaligned, you know, in our lives. And you've got to be able to say clearly, you know, what is it that's off? You know, are we tired? Are there some things as far as our boundaries that we would say is weak, is our habits not matching the goals that we're set? But then the fourth thing I would say is definitely turning intentionally, you know, rotating. That means you don't just notice an issue, you literally pivot. And so when clients come to me, that is a process that's so important to help to get them on that right road, that road that will lead them to the place that's going to bring about full change. And that has to do with our focus, has to do with our self-talk, has to do even with our environment.
Yes.
You know, what's around us? Who's surrounding us? Who's speaking in our ears? You know, what are our habits? What is the priorities that we have in life? And most of all, what is our response pattern? What is it? How do we respond to things each time that particular thing happens? But then looking forward, facing forward to where it is that we know that we want to be, where we want to get to in life.
Thank you, Dr. Rose. And I would close with saying, make an impact. Make an impact of change and develop a new identity. It is never too late. You're not lost because you know what? You're still alive and breathing. Can I pinch you or you?
I'm alive.
Yes, we're breathing and it's a beautiful day. Yeah. And if you make that choice to see the beauty in everything, no matter what you're going through, it will pass. So make a decision to connect with yourself. Make a decision to change. And when you do that, great things can happen. And Dr. Rose, do you have anything that you want to close with?
I just want to just encourage you to make a declaration today. Declare today that this is my awakening season.
Yes.
I am awakening. I will not hide from what needs to change. Tomorrow is going to be a great day. Matter of fact, it ain't even going to be tomorrow. It's going to be right now. Declare that today.
Well, thank you for being here this morning. And, you know, we're trusting that these topics that we're talking about touches you in a way that even if you can get one idea, one nugget, guess what? It's all worth it, because that's what we're here to, is to encourage, inspire, and empower you to move, to shift into your purpose. So if you like this segment today on Lifin Talk, I hope that you will subscribe to Lifin with Liz and hit the like button and share, because this is what we're here, and it is talking about real topics that affect people in so many different ways. So with that said, I hope that you have a wonderful day, and until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.